Thanks for tuning in to your favorite content creator, UTV. To find out more, follow us on our social media platforms: YouTube UTV124, Facebook UTV124, Instagram UTV124, Twitch UTV124, TikTok UTV_124, and Flow TV channel 124. Remember, UTV, TV for you.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guest, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.
Hello and welcome to all. Thank you for joining the Revolution. We are now on Thursday, the 17th of June, 2021, or, as we now know, the 11th day of the 6th year of the 5-year term of the Chasney administration. Shout outs to all those locked in on all media platforms, hoping that you're having a great day, enjoying the chauffeur weather, those who are in government buildings and are unable to turn on the air-conditioned units, those who are in the banks and are unable to figure out how to get away to leave work early, those who are being flooded as we speak. I don't even want to think about places like Dennery and Bexar and Canaries, but nonetheless, all I can say is to hold strong. Those who are able to stay home and chauffeur, all about 20 toes and undercovers. I was amazed on Sunday, Pan City, when we were right by the parking lot, by the bus terminal there. And a lady told Trisha and myself and a couple others that she and her husband watch the shows at night while they are cozying together. So if politics breeds romance, then boy, there's a lot of love going to be made today. Nonetheless, today is shout out, so let's get right to it. Folks in Lahore, folks in Bewaje, Labri, good afternoon to you. Shout outs to the Move There Surti crew in St. Lucia, Canada, and the rest of the diaspora. Keep sending the message, and they will not accept fraud and corruption on our watch, no matter what party is in power. Shout outs to Georgiana Odlam, and of course to Ananias Joseph, one of the people that my mom taught in school. Shout outs to brother David, aka Hurricane, and to Uncle Juban and his wife, always listening, coming from Empress Bobo. Shout outs to all those locked in from Badis Chaussee, Badini, Basse Joseph, Formager, Belle, and Lacroix. Good afternoon to the UWP ass sucker extraordinaire, Mr. Ricky Alexander, who is now in charge of the Soufrière Marine Management Area. And folks, imagine Ricky Alexander, who kisses and sucks the ass of all of UWP ministers and so on, right? He's in charge of all the pollution that is now coming through the Soufrière Stadium and the AstroTurf, and all of the leaching that is going on with the crumb rubber, which has been proven to cause cancer going into that water. All of the gray water, which is running underneath the beach park down over in Soufrière on the waterfront that Herod built without doing the drainage project. And of course, all other pollution. But no problem. Nonetheless, good afternoon to Mr. Ricky Alexander, who is now, as in charge of SMMA, is using the government vehicle, a vehicle donated by the German government, in order to campaign for the United Workers' Party. Shout outs to the folks joining the Revolution at therefore, as well as those joining in from Sanssouci, Lac Léry, and Tiroche Castries. On behalf of Victor Marquis and thousands of other St. Lucians, I ask, Lostaran is a pill prescribed for high blood pressure. Lostaran, Lostartan, Get this right. Losartan is a pill prescribed for high blood pressure, which leads to stroke and or death if it is not used. Why does the Castries Health Center have none for months? Minister of Health, where are you? We are dying. Losartan, Losartan, is a pill for high blood pressure, which without it leads to strokes, heart attacks, and death. And it is not in supply for months at the health centers. Minister of Health, whether that's Guy Joseph or Mary Isaac, please, people are dying. Advanced birthday greetings going out to a great nephew, Mikel Lawrenson, better known as Scooby of Rockall, on his birthday, which is on Sunday, wishing him all the best and many more birthdays to come from his entire home circle with love. Shout outs to the folks in Techime as well as those in Blackstone locked into the Revolution. To the Ja family, I would like to say, well done in getting the state of Texas to pass the Botham-Sher Act, requiring all police officers to put on their body cameras and video recorders before attempting to enter any and every situation. A great step, albeit of a tragic causality in terms of the loss of their son, having to force that to happen. Birthday greetings going out to Felix James, a former co-worker of mine, of course, over at Barbe Limited. My brother, I know you'll be having a great day. Greetings also coming to you from your lovely ladies, your daughters and your grandchildren, and of course your entire home circle. All the best, my friend. Ezekiel, it appears that Ezekiel will pay the farmers after the election is called, because right now as we speak, the Ministry of Agriculture is owing some 7 cutting cycles. Yes, 7 cutting cycles of unpaid money for bananas. The same government that say that they want to be in charge of Windfresh and its privatization because they are good managers. And Windfresh was being badly managed, but they own 7 cycles of cutting pay for the farmers as we speak right now. Remember the days when the UWP was almost branded as being synonymous in taking care of the farmers and the farmers? And yet Chasney and Ezekiel and them have treated the farmers and the fishers like shit and no apologies. Anyway, wow. Shout outs to Catherine Seelys, who said St. Lucians never fail to amaze her. The same people who cannot afford to touch Tappy or doorknob, then pay a ticket to get on a ferry to go for medical treatment, are the same ones supporting privatization of the OKEU, the non-completion, now completion of the ground floor of St. Jude's Hospital to put patients on in an active construction site. When they say black people are their own worst enemies, they were correct. Meanwhile, Alan has medical insurance in Miami and travels to Miami at your cost as a taxpayer to get medical attention every year whenever necessary. Yep, folks, right now the UWP is trying to figure out a way to bring the people onto an active construction site for a photo op, for what they tell you, a modern hospital, and we'll get to that, a modern hospital. Except that for the modern hospital, you ever have a hospital with no plumbing and electrical, and no provisions in the foundation or the subterranean infrastructure for water, electricity, or the connective gases that you need like nitrogen and oxygen? None of that. Essentially a parking lot with glugler multicolored cladding so that you can fool and vegle people. But like I said, we'll get to that. Birthday greetings going out to a true patriot, Finola Jennings Clark, has hoping that you enjoy your special day with many, many more to come. Birthday greetings also going out to the esteemed daughter of the legend, the late Francis Lebo de Lima, Miss Lyric de Lima. Greetings coming to you on your birthday from your mother, Amanda, and the entire John de Lima, Michelle, and Jagroup families. All so very proud of you, as indeed am I, knowing that your Father's Spirit flows through you as you continue to aspire and definitely achieve. Lastly, to all of those looking to purchase t-shirts, tomorrow, literally tomorrow, we are going to go around. I'm going to send my vehicle. I'll take bus and walk tomorrow so that I can send my vehicle around with a driver and a salesperson to go around the country to do deliveries. If you can put up the number for Dantes, for all those who are looking to order Revolution t-shirts, please call Dantes at 758-486-7658. For those of you in Radio Land, let me repeat once or twice more. 486-7658. That is 486-7658. And we're going to leave this up so people can see that tomorrow, from early in the morning, my vehicle will be going around. That's the vehicle 1010. Lancer police do not look to arrest them as they are driving my vehicle. The insurance is paid. Everything is fine with the vehicle. And I'm not there. If you want to arrest me, you can come and take me in the studio. They will be going around the country. Ancillary canneries, Bexar, Babono, Grosile, Viewfort, Miku, anywhere that you are, they will go within relative convenience to come through the towns and villages around the island so that they can drop off the orders of t-shirts. There are only about 150 t-shirts. I've tried to make a couple more so we can make the rounds. All t-shirts are $30, all sizes, all styles. Whether they are saying all of them must go, ready, whether they are saying Chastney must go, call it. All of those t-shirts in the different sizes and different colors will be there. So you just call Dantes today, call him now, WhatsApp him now, message him now, place your order, and hopefully we'll be able to do all the deliveries tomorrow so we can make everybody or as many people happy as possible. So we can come off of that now. Where do we start today? Well, we start with more conflict of interest and largesse. As you can see, conflict of interest is not only excused by this government, but their operatives like Thief Money Mangal boast about it, and so does Guy Joseph. So Thief Money Mangal is in charge of housing. Thief Money Mangal has been doing housing projects with Fresh Start. Fresh Start kicks back money to Thief Money Mangal because he is part of Fresh Start. And nobody sees a problem as a conflict of interest as a former senator and head of the housing department of government, the housing agency of government, HUDC, that cannot pay so many other bills, cannot pay staff, cannot pay this, cannot pay that, but they can find money to pay Fresh Start for them to do everything. What was the last thing Fresh Start did for them? Well, Fresh Start did the bus terminal area, right? We paid already, Fresh Start already doing millions of dollars of roads on credit. And remember, this is a company that has never tendered for anything. So nobody else, according to housing, could have done the CDC parking area. This is the same CDC parking area that Peterson, his self-worship Mayas, right, was sending garbage, was having garbage dumped inside of there on the ground floor for over a year. The same CDC buildings where he was dumping garbage, the same CDC buildings that could not receive attention for 4.5 years and then got painted shocking colors to look like some kind of schools. But now, in the not the 11th hour, the 12th hour and 11 days, they are now trying to dig it up and give Fresh Start yet more money for them to pave the area. Don't believe me? Here's your look. So that was from yesterday and continuing today. I don't know if they're getting into the mud. Here you have the CDCs that have been crying about, especially the tenants on the ground floor and the restaurants and the various shops have problems with flooding and all the rest of that. But this government only does projects that make sure it can benefit their henchmen, that can benefit themselves, can then further enrich themselves. And as a priority, this was probably a priority in the last 4 or 5 years. But it is conspicuous that it's happening now. Once again, another job for Fresh Start, right? The top cronies of Castries Southeast, Guy Joseph, and of course, the housing head, that being Thief Money Mangal, who also gets paid for all, and anytime Fresh Start seems to get work, You see how that is working out? And nothing for that, because, well, the people deserve to have their CDC parking lots paved. One can't help but wonder whether this is an election ploy once again to veglate the people, because they have been mistreated for 5 years. Not even 4.5 anymore, 5 years. Wow. So, where do we go? Since we're talking about Fresh Start, Fresh Start is also the ones that got the direct award, and Mangal get all of the purchases of up to $13 million plus with regards to St. Jude's. Right.
This was Guy Joseph at the United Workers' Party's 3rd anniversary rally in Soufrière, June 2019.
Before the end of the next financial year, we will be occupying St. Jude's in the new facility. Sama just power. Si nous pas deliver St. Jude, then nous pas supposé un gouvernement.
And the Truth Detector says the Economic Development Minister's statement Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021 was an untruth. And based on the timeline given by Guy Joseph, the completed building should have been, quote, occupied by April 2020. The end of the 2019-2020 financial year.
You can quote me anytime. Anything I say, I stand by. I'm not the kind of person who say things today and tomorrow I say that's not what I said. I feel bad that I will be compared to them in the delivery of St. Jude, because it looked like it's going to take us 4 years to do so. Yeah, we are targeting 18 months, but that would be 18 months from commencement date of construction for St. Jude, which we are hoping will be in the coming months, way before this year end, that construction should begin down there. I'm not in the business of putting timelines. I wait on engineers. You see, the same people who are there gave 3 or 4 dates for the opening of the hospital, and they couldn't deliver. What I said was that when we start the work, I expect to be able to finish the work in 6 months. Some very preliminary work will begin next month, but we will be in full construction in January. So you can't see me giving dates about the opening of St. Jude. Okay?
Economic Development Minister and Castries Southeast MP Guy Joseph had made a promise that the government would deliver on St. Jude before the end of its term in office. With the 5-year anniversary of the election observed on Sunday, some say that promise is looking very elusive. Joseph addressed the issue of St. Jude on the Flambeau Forum on Sunday night.
From St. Jude Hospital, they were trying to do something. Again, no plan. That's why I tell you, you must have a plan. If you have no plan, then they say you have plan to fail already. So, we have a plan. We did not try to make a makeshift hospital for the people. We decided that based on what we inherited, that there was no plan for, and we could not bring it to be what the people of Beaufort deserved, we decided, let us build a new St. Jude Hospital. Not just a better hospital, but a new hospital for the people of the South. So I want to maybe curtail my presentation at this point in time to say that this Flambeau government, under this Flambeau leader, has a plan, not just for today, but a plan for the future.
Do you all remember 2016? Do you all remember that the Labour Party, in many ways, if you had to pick 3 issues as to why the Labour Party lost the election, and the top 3 would have to be the non-completion of St. Jude's? Do you remember how Kenny Anthony's margin in Beaufort went down? How the South and the North was so angry at the non-completion? Even though there was no identified source of funding, there was no money left out of the money that was collected for St. Jude's, and Kenny Anthony had to go to source financing. Do you remember how much this was a campaign issue? And yet, when these buggers got into office, they stopped St. Jude's for 2.5 years. Whether you like Stephenson King or Kenny Anthony, or you dislike either or both of them, neither of them stopped work on St. Jude's. But Guy Joseph and Alan Shastney, in their deliberate judgment, along with Mary Isaac, clueless as she is, the cabinet stopped St. Jude's for 2.5 years to do an audit. Folks, if you had to stop every business in order to audit it, what would happen if you audit UNR International Airport or SLASPA? What would happen if you were to audit OKEU, and you have to stop it in order to audit it? The Labour Party commissioned an audit that went all the way up to 2014 and went all the way back into the 90s and 80s, all the way up to 2014 while they were in office of St. Jude's. And the boards were always there, whether St. Jude's existed or not. They were always the boards. But yet still, they stopped it. Then they decided to go for what you see there now. A building that has no plumbing and electrical. That got DCA approval only for the structure, the external structure. And yet a hospital has to be built sequentially. There's cladding with no walls, when you're supposed to put cladding outside of walls, and cladding has been proven to be flammable any which way. But yet still, all of a sudden, there's righteous indignation of United Workers' Party supporters and their surrogates and hacks, as we shall see. So let's show one of the top hacks of the UWP, Madam Ego herself, right? Let's put up that photo, just so everybody understands who we're talking about. This is Minerva Ward. I can't really say anything because nothing will do justice to exactly the type of person that she is. So let's go on to the next one. A repost of Lynthia Anthony's, Lucians saying, we want our St. Jude's. Shastney, we're working night and day. Lucians, we want our hospital. Shastney saying, hospital going up nicely. We're building a world-class hospital, not the death trap they left behind. Photos of the hospital circulating showing it's nearing completion. Nearing completion, remember that, folks? Lucians, an empty shell. We want to see inside. We want to see the roof. We want to know how many wires. We want to know how many tiles. We want. Me. Also me. Wish I knew how to fit all of them miserable, bitter hatriots in a barrel and throw them in the effing sea. Let's go to the next photo. And of course, all those multicolored panels. Yeah, man. A company that never made panels before. Eh? Also me. You see it again? I'll read for you again. Wish I knew how to fit all them miserable, bitter hatriots in a barrel and throw them all in the effing sea. This is the UWP promotion when it comes to St. Jude's. Well, public funds. No accountability. Public funds. Questions. PR. No accountability. Public funds entitled, the public is entitled to answers. Y'all get upset because the people are demanding answers. When it was y'all demanding answers for St. Jude's, y'all ran an entire campaign on that. And now, y'all want the same scrutiny, and it's the same thing, public funds, money borrowed from Taiwan and so on. But let's head up PR.
There we go. There is the hospital. I want St. Lucians to compare what they're seeing today versus what was there before. You have now an international hospital. You have an airport going up next door. All these things work hand in hand to bring Beaufort to a civilized area. And that's all I'm trying to say. Nobody's fighting anybody. Do you think the government wanted to go out and borrow a whole lot of money to go and do something? For years, we owe it to St. Lucia, we owe it to Beaufort, we owe it to the South to make this happen. Right. Good morning.
It's good to see this beautiful structure we have down in Beaufort.
Yes.
The new built hospital by this government, the United Workers' Party. Because the St. Lucia Labour Party don't care about people when they fall sick, when they go into a building to feel comfortable. They don't know that. What they wanted to give us You see that little ghetto, little thing, all them little shacks in ghetto?
Yeah.
That is what they built down there for St. Lucian. And it wasn't eating for us, St. Lucian. And all the monies that they spent at St. Jude, you know? And then you're telling me you all have material all in Castries. When fellas need material, fellas have to take airplane tick. Could you believe that, man?
Oh yeah, that's Labour
That's where
Party.
the money gone. And taking, you know, materials, building things for people and all kind of things. And I recall early time, there was a guy calling from Newport. He claimed to be a partner. He said, at the time I was a supervisor down in that place. And I thought trucks were going out with materials. Why he didn't report that to the police? But no, they all hacked together. He will not report it. But now he see a structured state-of-the-art with a platform where you could get a helicopter that could be landing there. But you know, Champagne, that is state-of-the-art. And we have to respect and compliment the government. This hospital will not be only for St. Lucian. There are the days where Dominica Grenada used to go to Matnik for health care. Right now, the return will be for us too.
I believe that. I agree with that.
The OECD countries, we all small islands together. Now, we have the state of the art. We could even care for those people too. You know, at of course that would not be high like, you know, when you have to leave St. Lucia, go to the United States, Germany. You're talking about hard cash money.
Yeah.
Affordable. And I know St. Lucian are passionate people. They will welcome that.
Of course.
But I want to tell the St. Lucian people, especially the young people, that's what we need. It's not, this hospital is not there just for a short term, you know. Because more and more our population is growing. Now, if our population is growing, you know, if you go and build a hospital with just 100 rooms, that is too small. You need to expand. We may not be around to see the realities. And then you're telling me you have another big project, the airport project, you know. And the thing I want to say before I leave, because I know there are people I want to call.
Yeah.
The airport stacked before. I want to know where the money gone.
Yeah.
And caller,
We have to ask Kenny.
caller, before you leave, let me just say something. I was one of those persons who was advocating that the government should open the hospital before calling elections. But seeing the delay caused by coronavirus, which I think everybody understands,
Yeah.
and the state of and the progress that has been made on that hospital, I would say it would take a heartless person from the south or from anywhere else not to support this government and say because the hospital is incomplete.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I agree with you.
I agree with that.
One thing I have to say, I'm calling on the new generation. They are the generation for tomorrow. Do not allow or even give any of the Labour Party candidates a vote, because they will sing this country.
Yes.
And the hotel labs, the call centers, they are already attacking you all. Sisters and brothers,
All right.
don't the eggs, buy the ice cream. Deny them fellas a chance. You know, it's actually considered to be an advantage to keep your base and your people ignorant. So while there are people who are even former UWP surrogates lamenting the use of champagne and Dr. Secretion and Herod Marius, they are such low information surrogates and hacks that they actually have to be touring these projects now after 4 or 5 years and then to come back to give information. And they don't, like they said, they ignore criticism, so they don't seek out objectively verifiable information. They just repeat and regurgitate whatever is told to them by whichever UWP minister and their version of events comes through. Now, folks, first of all, that hack there, that's the same jackass that called me a couple times, Lenny, John, Lenny, whatever. Another funeral hearse driver that ring the bell, Sonny Closh. All right, the first person to try to commit violence in election campaign in Olio by pulling a knife on his own female cousins, 4 of them. Now, folks, let's just get through a couple of things.
First of all, they want to know what the airport tax is. The airport tax money has been with SLASPA in the lockbox as it always was under the Labour Party. It was supposed to be $126 million according to public accounting. Shasney did not want to use any of it for stimulus or for COVID relief, but claimed that it was only at $90 million, which makes everybody wonder where the rest of the money has gone since we had not started the airport project yet and gotten the loan. That's part one. So where's the airport money? It's there. The second of all is that this hospital, for as big as it is the same bed count as the existing St. Jude's was going to be, just about 90 beds. So all that big glugler for 90 beds, same way. What's worse though is that this big modern hospital that they're talking about is actually a downgrade hospital, which even Guy Joseph admits, and I have played it for you a number of times. I can always send you the video. Just WhatsApp me 519-1818 and I'll send it to you. Right? Guy Joseph readily admits that it is a level 4 polyclinic hospital, aka a district hospital. A district hospital offers minor services for minor surgeries, but for any major surgery or major incident, everybody will still, like back in the days, what we had evolved beyond and progressed beyond, everybody from the south will end up having to go to the north for any major surgeries. Why? Well, one simple reason. Cayman privatization of our hospital. Their business model does not believe that they can make the money that they want if we have two general hospitals, as we are going to have when Stephen King and others worked with the Labour Party administration to expand the plans for St. Jude's to make it, after Hurricane Thomas split the island in two, to make two general hospitals, one in the north, one in the south. So that if you have mass casualty, God forbid, there's a plane crash or anything like that, that those people could go to a general hospital in the south. If the fishers, because the Vieux-Fort has the largest fish landing port, 28% of the island's fish come through Vieux-Fort. If anybody got the bends, they would have a hyperbaric chamber in Vieux-Fort. They also have one at OKEU, like that. But they downgraded it, and they're building a downgraded polyclinic box, which does not have any water or electricity or the essential gases in the subterranean infrastructure. So a car park with cladding is what's being built. Now, Josie said, he cannot, why would anybody not forgive? So why weren't you all saying that in 2016? If you look at Kenny Anthony's track record, everywhere that he has gotten himself into problems has been chasing down a UWP racket project and trying to work it into legitimacy. Kenny Anthony came into office and he got St. Jude's under Stephen King. They all were talking about arrest the people that were carrying material. You mean arrest the person that said that was Concreto? The only problem was, it's Concreto that was carrying the material. But no, y'all don't want to talk about that. Y'all too busy hiring him for every other job and partnering him with Sarah Flood. But we'll get to that in another show. In the meantime, you have a state-of-the-art helicopter, a state-of-the-art hospital because it has a helicopter pad. Folks, do your own research. People are not putting helicopter pads on hospitals because of the danger. It was something that was done in the 80s and is now being discontinued in the construction of modern hospitals because of the safety issues. And also, in our case, anytime a helicopter would have to land or take off, it would not be able to perform in an emergency. Why? Because the airport right next door would be required to give clearance so that SLASPA, if a plane is landing and you have an emergency, they'll tell you, hold on, the plane is landing. Afterward, you can take off or land the helicopter. So what should really happen? In the time that you'll be waiting to get clearance for the helicopter, if you just let the helicopter land at the airport right next door, as you all pointed out, then the transit time is about 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops, even without an ambulance, from the airport to the hospital, as opposed to putting a helicopter pad, which is not only dangerous, but they put a hut by the helicopter pad, which is even more dangerous. And what is even worse is they can simply use the airport. But just like Shasney's childish toy brain, they like to see glugler. Folks, that's a personality type, you know, the people that like Trump and they like authoritarian strongman politics and they like all of that stuff. So it doesn't matter. They just, oh, we're giving you a new hospital, right? Folks, the question was asked by 1, by 2, by 10, by hundreds. Why all showing the outside? Why all not showing the inside? And I got a clip and I misnamed it. I thought it was May 4th. And the person who took the video called me back and said, no. It is actually June 4th. A couple Fridays ago, no, Thursday, right? So let me let you see inside of the St. Jude's that they boasted about as of 2 weeks ago. Well, you have the date. June 4th, a bird sanctuary as you just heard. June 4th, empty, but with all the glugler outside. The perfect analogy for the Shasney administration, a jabbersack government trying to vegle people on something as important as healthcare. But you know, let me show you, boy, St. Lucia, you have to admit, you love your sister islands, you love your Dominica, your St. Vincent, Grenada, you have family there, you travel there, you go and jump carnival, you do this, that, and the other. But it has to hurt your heart as a proud St. Lucian to see that we were leading the OECS and now we're the butt of all the jokes. And even in things that are serious, like the employment of our nationals, you've seen St. Lucians having to go to work in other islands because they can't get work under this government, this discriminatory, victimization-clad government. Folks, I want you to think of this. Think of this. Remember, Renault was chased from St. Lucia until they needed him to do roads on credit at the last minute as they done Pump Fresh Start and Skelly and Nationwide with all the money. When they get bankrupt now, they turn around, they go to Renault. And Renault made the decision to expand into the other islands because Guy Joseph made it perfectly clear and Shasney that they didn't want Renault to get work. And so did the former chairman, Ozzy Boy, have a lot of choice words at the UWP 2019 rally. Because Renault said that the reason we have crime in St. Lucia is because people are following the example that they see. And Oswald Augustine took greater umbrage to that, but that's okay. So Renault went into the other islands. Because like the thousands of St. Lucians that could not get work under this government, stopping projects like the administrative building, the Soufrière Square, and a number of other projects, then you realize, well, people have to adapt. They have to find a way to survive. Sad that you cannot find work in your own country. But I want to show you pictures of the hospital in Dominica. Remember, don't put them up yet. Remember, Dominica is the country that was ravaged by a hurricane in 2018 while we were spared. Venezuelans launched relief efforts here while we were shitting on Venezuela through the Lima Group. They were helping Dominica, right? We sent media over to cover the devastation and destruction of Dominica. 2018. 2019, 1 year progress. Then you had 2020 with COVID. And even in the middle of COVID, I want you to see a 60-bed hospital that is built by Renault and had a price, 32 million EC dollars. But Guy and them build a polyclinic box for $90 million and they don't even have plumbing or electrical there right now. So let's show the photos. So folks, you have an administration department with a nurse, director's office, administration area with separate hospital, director office, kitchenette for staff, pharmacy store with a pharmacy office and counseling room, 2 doctors' rooms, nurse station, nurse duty room, triage room, conference room, mortuary, biomedical waste room, water tank, generator, elevators, right? The pharmacy and dental clinic with 2 dental chairs, dialysis room, laboratory, maternity rooms, emergency department with 2 emergency rooms and an isolation room, x-ray room, ICU department with a 7-bed capacity and 1 dedicated to dialysis patients, 2 private rooms, 2 isolation rooms, 3 male wards, 3 female wards, 2 children's wards, and 2 operating theaters, right? This is all in Dominica. Right, all in Dominica. 60 beds there, folks. 60 beds. And the price, $32 million. That a St. Lucian, right, also employing St. Lucians over there as well as Dominicans, has built during COVID. During COVID. And imagine this country also gave its people stimulus and has borrowed at least $300 million less than St. Lucia, who borrowed the most in the OECS, $300 plus million more than who ranked number 2, Antigua. There you have it. In a way, you should be proud that St. Lucians are building and making progress in Dominica, but don't you feel a little bit ashamed to know that because of our accommodation of this tebeberistic government, that our people continue to suffer inside St. Jude's, the staff, the patients, everybody, while this government continues greed upon greed upon greed. This is the revolution. There's more to come.
Welcome to the Entertainment Nation on steroids. UTV and Hits FM, sinking the eyes and the ears of tomorrow today. Not only can you see it, you can feel it. Airing on channel 124 or tune into radio 92.1 FM is Trisha Lionel in the morning at 11 and the ever controversial Revolution with Christopher Hunt. That's right, we don't do it normal. Stay locked in with UTV and Hits FM, channel 124 and 92.1 FM. UTV, TV for you.
Madras. Hey. Free second. Boom. I like it. Chrome.
Pani street party c'est jou ça là. Pani l'argent encore. Si nous toutes prenons responsabilité et faire ça nous ni pour faire. Bagay la kay marcher et nous tout kay manger. En nous tirer la peine nous kay danser encore.
Wear a mask, wash your hands and maintain a 6-feet distance. If we keep St. Lucia safe, we can keep our economy running.
You just attack it up, back it up, fling it up on me so heaven in your waistline when you make it roll. Tough gal a road that tell me say them a bit too, but none of them don't have it like you. When it come to whining skill, gal you know you are the baddest. Them a dancehall queen, but you a dancehall goddess. Them gal a road really need little practice, but everything I need, girl you have it. Cause you's a professional bump and roller, qualified waistline controller. You a bubbling general, them gal they just a bubbling soldier. You's a professional bump and roller, qualified waistline controller. If them girl they a bubbling boss, you a bubbling CEO. Yeah, work 7 days straight feet. All I hope and pray feet. And if them
Thank you for staying with the revolution. Now, St. Lucia, you know, we've become accustomed to corruption. We think it's par for the course and part of governance, part of politics, part of society. And it is that acceptance that has us in problems. No society can be perfect, no government can be perfect, but we should always be trying to prosecute and improve when it comes to things like corruption. You look at some of the Nordic countries that have things like Freedom of Information Act, or that they allow participative governance with having provisions to have the public included in totally transparent governance models which allow for accountability. So you see people being arrested and you see people being charged and jailed. But in St. Lucia, let's face it, we have accepted discrimination. We know that Fola Show is not policed the same way as Bonte. We know that Shantytown, we know that Cicero is not policed the same way as Rodney Bay. And we accept that, and that's the problem. And when it comes to corruption, I've always asked the question, do St. Lucians have a problem with corruption, or do they have a problem with corruption if they are not getting? Well, I'm going to show you that we've had a problem with corruption that, let me put it to you this way. This government has proven, and it's been exposed by COVID, how corruption can kill a country. And even in COVID, where it was our darkest hour, instead of putting us first, they put their personal profits, their friends' personal profits, and their campaign monies in front of everyone else's needs. And we are living that sad reality. But I'm going to take you through all the way back with regard to one issue. The Dahe Mall, bought because Dahe was a UWP supporter, one of the high-end UWP supporters that gave to the campaign. And so, as soon as Sir John got in 2006, gave him to pave roads on the Grosley Highway that were in perfectly good condition. Sounds like something seen right now, like in Corinth and so on. And then, after giving him to do the roads, arranged to buy, under Stevenson King, formed a company to buy the Dahe Mall. The Dahe Mall that was shit from the get-go.
Dr. Kenny Anthony has never shied away from stating his disapproval of the government's decision to purchase the Dahe building. He has sounded that protest in Parliament, at press conferences, and at political meetings like the one his party held last week. Now that the building has been purchased through a private company owned by the government, Dr. Anthony is no less vocal about the dire consequences that will follow that decision. This time his message is aimed at the bank that financed the deal.
I want this bank to know that I hope that they cross their T's and dot their I's. Because when you see that loan get into trouble and a Labour government is in office, don't ask the Labour government why. Cross your T's and dot your I's. Because that loan should have gone to the Parliament of St. Lucia, and the Parliament of St. Lucia authorized a company owned by the government of St. Lucia to borrow that money to buy that building.
The tourism minister calls the decision to purchase the building a sound investment for the bank and the government. He says it is a win-win situation for the lending institution and the country.
Is it fair to say that after you invest $30 or $40 million and you fix up the building, that it has a value of $60 million? Our estimates are that it'll be having a greater value. And the bank itself, what would be the rationale for the bank? The building has sat there and nobody has taken it up. The building was free for anybody to take it up. So the bank itself was happy to get this off its books and for it to become now an active asset.
Shasney says Dr. Anthony is playing cheap politics by not supporting the purchase of the building. Furthermore, he says the government has a plan for making the building pay for itself.
The government is also looking at opportunities of maybe selling some of the floors in terms of investors, where they can buy a floor of the building, and that the government then could reduce the substantial part of the loan. All those are being looked at, but those are being looked at in the purview of now there is a separate company. This is not even something that's being run by government. There's a separate company with its own board that's been given the mandate by cabinet in order to make sure the finances on this building work.
Dr. Anthony has called for the loan that would be used to finance purchase of the building to go towards the economic stability of St. Lucians. He says the time is not right to purchase a building he described as derelict.
Save the jobs, save the jobs. Give people a chance to work. The 33 million you spent on the Dahir building, you should have taken it and gone build roads, drains, employ people. That's what you should be doing with that. Not to go and buy a derelict building.
Somebody once said that politics is the art of taking money from the rich to get the poor to vote for you and then to service neither. But this government has put its twist in the sense that you can see, now you see from 13, 14 years ago plus, how corruption is impacting us today. Because there is a building that, and you know, I forgot to tell this story. I may have told it once before, but I have to tell it again. When I came back to St. Lucia from Canada in school, and I was doing Lucians, Sir Michael Shastney then asked me to come to his office, because we used to speak all the time. His office is in my parents' neighborhood, and he wanted me to do marketing for him. And he actually was the first person to tell me about how worthless that building was. And he told me that he walked through the mall with one of his engineers, and he said the first problem with the mall was that it's a European style mall. It had no windows. Apart from the one central skylight, it had no windows. So the cost of air conditioning would be astronomical. He was the one that pointed it out to me, and he said he would never buy it. You ever wonder why all those years, that great piece of property, nobody wanted to touch it? The last person to make an offer was made to Shastney about 2 years ago of $15 million, and yet Shastney sold it now for $13 million after he bought it for $30 million. You listen to the bravado of Shastney right back then, and right now is the same bullshit salad that you get in. And let's go to 2019.
7 months later, he sold the building. 7 months later, in August, he's saying that call centers would come and blah, 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 6 investors. 7 months later, he sold the building. Put up a copy of the deed for me, please. Deed of sale, transfer, Amazona Properties Limited. That was the name of the company that the government formed to place the building in. Amazona Properties to Orange Grove Plaza for US $5 million on, you can leave it at 26th of March 2020. So in August, folks, in August, Shastney is telling us that he will be doing whatever, but in March of that year, in March of the following year, 7 months after, Shastney has already sold the building for $5 million or 13.5, $5 million US or 13.5 million. You see, you could take it out. Now, I wouldn't mention who the purchasers are, the directors of that company, because, you know, I can't establish any kind of sinister motive, and he got a deal, they take it. Although I am instructed that 3 years ago, Renault had offered $15 million for the building, and the government refused. But you see, when the guys get deals from government, you can't blame them, you know. I don't blame T.O. King. I don't blame range developers. I don't blame any company that get anything from the government 2 for 5 cents. I don't blame them. I blame the foolish prime minister that we have. A man who lacks business acumen. But folks, let me just let you know of the financial implications of the building. The building cost the government and people of this country pretty close to $30 million. In fact, we paid $27 million for the building, and with fees, you can round it up to say $30 million. But it is well. We have paid the interest on that building for over 11 years. Over 11 years. Over 11 years. But I will leave it at 11 years for ease of calculation. So for 11 years, we are paying $250,000. I'll leave it at 250 for ease of calculation. We are paying $250,000 every month for 132 months, which is 11 years. Folks, and that has nothing to do with the principle. 132 months at $250,000 is a whooping $33 million that taxpayers have paid in interest on that building. Are you all with me? Interest alone, $33 million. If you add the 27 we paid for it, the 33 would be more, the 27 would be more. The building has cost us in excess of $50 million. You all are hearing me? In excess of $50 million. We sold it for how much? 13.5. So the government and people of this country absorb the loss of in excess of $37 million on that deal.
So there you have it. Richard Frederick was in cabinet when all of this happened. Alan Chasney pushing together with Osbert Dove and of course his wife, Amazona Properties. And folks, the things that people don't even tell you. Do you know that up to this day, because we're now under another sailor, this is how people get shafted. The owners of the land on which the Dahe Mall is built are still owed money by the Dahes. The owners of the property, the son, the owners died of the land, and their son lives behind the Dahe Mall on the same plot of land, and the family also owns Wilton's Yard. And right now, as we speak, they are still owed money from the Dahes. But yet, the mall has been sold after all of these transactions. So, it's all about the lies.
Number 9. The Prime Minister informed, and I love this one, the Prime Minister informed this Parliament that it was the Labour Party that bought the abandoned Dahe Mall in Bois de Ouage. He says truth. Can I play the clip? I don't know that. Okay. The truth. A news report, the Prime Minister says that's true, you know. A news report was carried by HTS on August 4th, 2009. Clearly states that Dr. Anthony was always against the purchase of the mall. The Prime Minister is quoted as saying, and I quote, Dr. Anthony is playing cheap politics by not supporting the purchase of the building. Furthermore, he says, government has a plan for paying the building, for the building to pay itself. That's what the Prime Minister said. Even here today, he's saying that it is true that it's Kenyan City that bought the mall. And number 10, let me tell you, this is very Trumpian in behavior.
Just imagine Chasney sitting there laughing, saying that the lie that he said that this was all about Kenny, because they can always blame anything on Kenny, is true. But yet, I played the clip for you with Chasney arguing for the purchase of the building by him, his cabinet, with Stephenson King as Prime Minister, him as the Minister for Tourism. You see that? You know what it takes to be able to lie shamelessly like that? I just don't understand. What is this magic elixir that these guys are taking? Some horseshit type of tea they must be drinking in a day for them to be able to do that? To lie with such conviction. You need more? Okay.
Revisiting the Dahe Mall, and you will see how stupid a decision it was. The whole thing is against the interest of St. Lucia and its people. When the Prime Minister said that we had sold the ground floor of the Dahe Mall, I showed you all the deed of sale. I showed you all the schedule. So in essence, we had proven that this was a big fat lie. There was nothing about the ground floor. Now, folks, I went and I listened further to the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister said that the 2 floors which he claims are ours, listen well, which he will be renting to persons for call centers. Yes, he said that. But he went on to say that if the call centers do not prove to be a viable option, that government offices will be placed in there. In fact, I even heard him say in the House, in Parliament, the courthouse, the courthouse or courthouses. And we will be renting the space at $4 a square foot for 15 years. For 15 years. Now tell me, folks, tell me, if government owns 2 floors, we own it, why do we have to pay rent at $4 a square foot for 15 years? Why? Folks, and that $4 seemed to be some kind of achievement insofar as the Prime Minister's thinking is concerned. Because he's boasting about, and I'll play it, you all will hate, he's boasting about commercial space being rented at $5 a square foot. But we are getting it at $4. He says it's been rented at $5. We are getting it at $4. But he goes on to say that we are saving $1.50. So I don't know how you call that kind of mathematics, if it's Shastney's mathematics. Because if we get it at $4 and it's normally at $5, how can we save $1.50? $4 and $1.50 is $5? Well, you all know why exactly we are in trouble. But before we do the maths, folks, I want you to listen for sure, so that you will satisfy yourselves that this is what Shastney said. I don't want anybody to say I made it up. Because some time ago, in the recent past, Shastney, I think last Wednesday, Shastney overtly said that the police force had no bullets. One of the hacks said Shastney never said it, not realizing there is a clip in substantiation. The hack said Shastney said there were no bulletproof vests. Wait it. There were no bulletproof vests. So before the hacks say that I made it up, I want you to take a listen to Shastney himself, folks, and you'd realize the kind of financial damage that this man is doing to this country. Take a listen to this.
Venture.
So what we did is we sold the ground floor. A lot of people aren't familiar here, but we have what's called a condo legislation. So it means you can have a block and parcel number for different floors. So we sold the ground floor. We kept the 2 floors upstairs. The person who bought the ground floor has agreed through a bolt arrangement to outfit the entire building. So he's building commercial space downstairs. We're designing upstairs right now for call centers. So we have met with one of the largest call center companies in the world. And they want to put a major headquarters for the Caribbean here. They want to start with 600 people. Which would require 35,000 square feet of space. We have 75,000 square feet of space in that location.
According to the Prime Minister, if this avenue does not prove fruitful, there are other individuals interested in renting the upstairs of the building.
So what would happen is the government will pay rent, I think it's like about $4 a square foot for 15 years. And at the end of the 15 years, the two buildings, the two floors come back to the ownership of the government. So we're not having to put out any money, we're not having to borrow any money to be able to do that. And we're going to, even if it's government offices are going to go in there, the average rent for government office space is $5.50. So we would be getting actually at $1.50 cheaper than what we were getting anywhere else. So I'm very excited about seeing that building finally coming into. So
Okay. If you're not confused, then you're a genius, because to me all of this gish gallop is hard to process.
It's what's commonly referred to, certainly in Britain, as asset stripping. We've had a number of cases where national assets have mysteriously come under the management overnight of individuals, expats and otherwise, who, and one does not know by what means this transfer has taken place, the transfer of ownership, the transfer of control. I think we have another one coming up with the Daher Mall. It sounds as if we're going to be renting back from a facility we used to own for a public purpose and paying. It's so convoluted I can't even really follow it myself, but I hope it comes to light, because maybe it's a new model of doing business that I need to update myself on.
But that sounds like post-Soviet Russia, though. I mean, where people are just grabbing resources and old state agencies and selling them off.
It does have that flavor.
You see about it, somebody said about how the Daher Mall was given to some foreign investor. The Daher Mall was under receivership from both governments. Okay? So local persons who have money never thought it was, they didn't want to invest their money in it. So if somebody else comes in, so I don't see why.
Yeah, but the problem, caller, of that idea is that the Daher Mall was a private investment and the government went and purchased it. That's where it becomes our problem. If it was a private investment and it remained a private investment, that you can't do anything about it.
But let me tell you something.
So, but you now have implicated taxpayer money in an entire investment. So that's the problem with the Daher Mall to begin with.
Okay, was it I think $30 million to clear out the whole thing? So both governments were there. So if somebody right now comes and they say, well, okay, they're going to give out whatever the $40 million. Because whatever.
But we don't know, no caller. Number one, we don't know how much was paid for the Daher Mall. If that amount. What we're told.
You say you don't know?
No, we don't know, caller. Have you seen the deed of sale? We were told that a developer has purchased the ground floor of the building, and we were told that
from the inception, when the Daher Mall went bust and Osbert Duvey and then woke up whatever, because Osbert Duvey was one of the main keys in that. We knew that. They got government to take over the property. Was it about a $30 million? The Kenyans and the Hollands said that in the house.
That's
what $30 million then. Yes. But we don't know how much it was sold to the current person who we're now told it's been sold. And we don't know how much it was sold for.
So you as the watchdog, now that's one thing about you, George. You as the watchdog, you know everything.
I can't know everything, caller. No. Come on, caller.
You sent to me, you do not know.
Let him finish.
It was sold to a foreign investor, but you do not know how much money was sold to the foreign investor.
Right.
And you have been keeping tabs on everything. You're keeping tabs on Cabot. You're keeping tabs on everything. You don't know what is going on.
Tell us.
Caller, there's certain bits of information that we can find out from different sources. This deal with the Daher Mall just occurred. I am not privy to the amount of money that it was sold to the developer for. It is not my responsibility to state this, This is a government property, a government asset, and it was sold by the government. It is a duty of the government to come and tell us that information. And so this idea that we have watchdogs who must just...
Let me tell you,
yes.
your sources in the opposition party, because you really close to the opposition
party. But what does that have to do with selling the Daher Mall, caller?
But it's their responsibility also to know what is going on because they are part of the government.
Yeah, but caller, caller,
they are part of the government.
This is caller. I've entertained you a lot, and I'm trying to be very patient with you. But at the end of the day, it is a responsibility of the state, the government, right? We have to provide that information.
Okay.
So we should not be speculating. And I'm telling you that we have not been told what was the sale price for the one floor, right? The ground floor, which we have been told has been sold. We haven't been told that.
Okay, that. So you feel that it wasn't incumbent upon Philip J. Pierre, Kenny Anthony, and them to ask these questions when the budget, along the way, rather than we just there right now speculating as to what's going on?
Caller, everybody is asking questions, but the questions have been asked. But then what I'm saying to you, just because you ask the question, it is the responsibility of the state to provide that information. So why are you more interested in getting the opposition or the media or other people to come and do what the state is supposed to be doing?
And sadly, when I put out a document, or Calix George Jr. or Yadi or Jahim put out a document, it's treasonous. We don't love our country. How can these public servants be leaking stuff? But every Tuesday, the Bofest man can stay there and parrot whatever he wants to, say whatever he wants to, put out whatever documents to create whatever narrative. And this one you'll have to endure. But there's a reason for that.
The moment news came out that work had begun on the Daha Mall, oh, you knew they could not sit still. Oh, no. The hounds and the hakalaks of the SLP were unleashed. They came out from under the rocks, the caves, wherever they were hiding, to paint the most negative picture you can imagine about the Daha Mall. And leading the pack was none other than, no drum roll, just a big boo, vroom vroom, Ernest Hilaire. Yeah. You think I'm just saying it? Well, I have the evidence for you to see. His Facebook page. Put that up on the screen there so everybody can see. On June the 10th at 10:50 a.m., it's not a regular Facebook, folks. Special. It gives you the date and the time. Second paragraph. We all recall the justification given by Alan Chasley in 2010 for the King administration to buy a derelict, structurally compromised building for in excess of $36 million. He thought it was brilliant business. We all know that building remained abandoned for 11 years. So what if buildings remained abandoned? They can always be renovated. They can always be rescued. There is always use that you can find if you have the proper business plan, business again, if you have the proper thinking, and if you can think, if you can see beyond your nose or beyond just politics of office, and you can look and see the value for the people. But you talk about abandoned for 11 years. I'll talk about the abandonment and who abandoned what in a while. Okay? In a while. Scroll up for me, please. Now Chastanet turns around and sells the entire building. Yes, the entire building, and not just the ground floor as publicly declared by him, for a mere $13 million. Why mislead the public? Ernest Hilaire, you're the one misleading the public with bad information. Bad information. Because, yes, keep it up there. Because you are sorely incorrect. And then he goes on to state a whole load of things and give you calculations and talk about, well, after selling the entire building, he is renting about 78,000 square feet, portions of the second and third floor, for about $62 million over 16 years, plus VAT and maintenance. Well, first of all, let me just bounce that off there. If you pay VAT as government, you get it back because VAT come back to government, okay? So just forget about that. The plaza people even get, in his broken English, the plaza people even getting paid a 10% management fee to maintain the building for us. So he gives you his own calculation there, 10%. Scroll up. That's it. Yeah, every month since March 2021, we have had to pay monthly rent of $300,000. That's not true. I'm saying so categorically. You see, again, just this side of it. That's not true. All right? And I will let you in on a little thing here. For the duration of the demolition and construction, there is no rent to pay. Plus 6 months after the building is done. So go back with that and come back and wheel back and come again, okay? I don't, you know, that's why keeping it real is here. But I will give, you can take that down because that's just a bunch of drivel. And I will give you the facts of the matter here, folks. I'll give you the facts of the matter, okay? In 2007, 1 year after the United Workers' Party came into office, in 2007, the UWP government paid $27 million for the Daha Mall, which also includes, you see, you didn't hear anything about it in there. You see? $27 million for the mall, and it also included 10 acres of land at Union. You didn't hear about that there. The property was put into the ownership of a company owned by government, created by government, called Amazona. The intention is that the bank agreed to the purchase of the building and to finance it, and also finance the reconstruction of the mall, which was going to be an additional $50 million. The loan would have been to Amazona and based on the asset value of the mall. Right? So what? Anyway, hold on there. Government was then going to commit to rent the space from the mall. So the government would be renting from Amazona. Nipro, what? Membaila? Build and you lease it to government. Fire stations, police station, isn't that the same thing? Okay. Okay. The bank was having difficulty in raising the money to finance the development of the mall and wanted to get into a syndicated arrangement. Now, Kisa syndicate means? A syndicate means a group of banks. So the bank figures, you know, we want to get into this, but we don't have all the money or we can't afford right now to get into it. So let's get 1, 2, 3 other banks to get in on the deal. Nothing unusual about that. There was a loan recently by government on more than one occasion, a syndication of banks, syndicate of banks. By the time that was organized, the UWP lost the elections in 2011. The SLP came into office late 2011 and did absolutely nothing with the mall. You hear that? They did nothing with it. In 2016, the UWP resurrected the project, met with a developer who was willing to enter into a joint venture and agreed to purchase the mall for $30 million. Listen well, because si ou pan la han, ekou ni propriété ka asid la, kon gouvernement, ou ka fait un deal comment? And that is the problem with the SLP. The deals, the negotiation skills, being able to capitalize, being able to deliver. They continue getting into these deals that fall in flat. But anyway, listen. The government was able to enter into an agreement with a developer, listen, to purchase the mall for $30 million. And then, listen to it, your property, but you don't have the money to develop it. The developer would purchase it for $30 million. The developer would then spend $50 million of their own money to develop the mall, to redevelop it, to break down, to fetut kalte bagay epi. $50 million. Right? In exchange, what the developer wanted to develop it, of course he ain't doing it for free. But again, you know, I have to ask, where are the local investors that always could have been gotten? Where are they? Where were they? 5 years past 2011 to 2016, SLP didn't get no local investors, did they? Where are all the St. Lucians with all the money they were talking about with Cabot? Huh? But that's a St. Lucian there. But you know what? It's Alan Chastney and the UWP, so there's a problem. They will tell you there's a problem because they can't see nothing good for St. Lucia under the UWP. They have to complain.
Yep. Now, why is it important to play the Bofest man? Because the lies are delivered, they're written, delivered so palpably. There was such conviction. And there are people who will call the show, thank you for enlightening us, and this, that, and the other. He read and repeated that the people purchased the mall for $30 million. When the people purchased the mall for $13 million. Chastney and the UWP government bought the building for $30 million. We've paid as a people, as a country, we've paid over $50 million, some $52 million because of that boneheaded decision. $250,000 a month in interest payments alone on a derelict building. And the reason the Labour Party did nothing with it is because it was a bad deal. Nobody in the private sector wanted it, not even Michael Chastney, who told me this himself. And you know how you know it's true? Because Mitt would have gone and bought it any which way, especially with his son there to make a couple. But don't worry, there's a little bit of that coming soon. So now, here is the response. It's long, but it's worth it.
The long-abandoned Dahe Mall at Bois-de-Ouage is now teeming with construction activity as the UWP administration focuses its attention on the redevelopment and reconstruction of the derelict building. However, the St. Lucia Labour Party has blasted the Alan Chastney-led administration, which in 2016 made known its intention for the property with an asking price of over $35 million. According to the SLP, such commitments should not be made on behalf of the people of St. Lucia in the waning days of the UWP government.
Parliament has 1 month left, and it is not a time for more borrowing or for more commitments to be made.
Deputy political leader of the SLP, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, during a press conference held on Wednesday, June 16th, alleged that despite the promises to renovate the building, the structure remains in a dilapidated state.
The building remained abandoned ever since 2001, ever since 2006, that is for 15 years. With government having to repay a loan on its purchase. It means that government would have paid over $45 million on this investment by 2020. Of course, you'll recall it was praised in 2006 by the then Minister of Tourism and now Prime Minister Alan Chastney as a wise investment. And of course, nothing happened to that building for 15 years.
The SLP claims in 2020 the land and building was sold by Amazona Properties, a government holding firm, to Orange Plaza Limited for $13.5 million.
We lost over $13 million on that sale alone.
But back in March 2021, Prime Minister Alan Chasney said that the government, after selling a portion of the land and building, was now looking to rent the second and third floor of the structure.
Many persons have done a structural assessment of the property. So structurally the property is fine. We have sold the ground floor. And we have maintained ownership of the upper 2 floors. And we've just signed a lease agreement where we've agreed to lease the property, and the person who's developing the ground floor will now reconstruct that entire building.
Okay.
And the goal is that we would either give it to Invest St. Lucia for renting out to call centers, or possibly government offices, or a mixture of the two. We have a major call center company, it's one of the largest in the world, that have now agreed to come to St. Lucia, and that's one of the sites that we're going to be showing them. So construction on that property should be beginning within the next 2 weeks of development. And then right next to it, the unfinished piece on the right,
on the side,
there's been discussions with the developer to go and look at putting the regional court there.
However, despite the optimism of the ruling UWP, the SLP has cast doubt on what they claim is another ill-advised real estate property-driven commitment made by a government which has been dogmatic in its pro-growth agenda at the expense of St. Lucian taxpayers.
It means that our taxpayers will be paying $56.4 million in rent over the next 15 years of that agreement. $56.4 million in rent over the next 15 years of that agreement. More so, we have to pay our portion of the utilities and maintenance and management of the land and buildings. The management fee for maintenance of the land and building is 10% of our portion. So in addition to paying the rent of $313,000 a month, we have to pay utilities, our portion of utilities, our portion of maintenance of the land and buildings, plus a 10% management fee for the maintenance of the land and buildings.
The SLP claims that having the taxpayers pick up the tab of an estimated $60+ million in a 15-year span for an ill-fated 17,400 square feet of property at Wadawaj does not add up, insisting that the current government halt any new commitments in the name of the people of St. Lucia with election nigh.
The Prime Minister, in typical style, misleads. The truth is, we are going to, he says we're going to get a second and third floor owned by the government of St. Lucia. That is not true. The second and third portions of the second and third floor, totaling 78,400 square feet, is being leased to the government of St. Lucia. It's been leased to the government of St. Lucia. After 15 years of paying the lease, we will now be the rightful owners. Ownership will be transferred to us. But for now, the transfer of ownership, the shows of both the land and the buildings, it is owned by one entity right now, the registered documents.
Right, so let's just have a quick look at that for the benefit of persons who are at home. If you could just go to screen very quickly. Right, so this is a document right here, Land Registration Act. Well, basically just says transfer of land by Amazona Properties Limited, right, which is government owned, to Orange Grove Plaza Limited, right, and it of course gives you the registration, Gross Lay 1253B, parcel number 888 for US $5 million or EC $13,584,500, executed this day, 26th day of March 2020, which was last year. Over a year ago. And of course it gives the before Mark Mirage, Notary Royal, and between Amazona Properties Limited and Orange Grove Plaza. And of course, in the instance of Amazona Properties being represented by Director Francis Denbo and Benjamin Emmanuel, the Cabinet Secretary, representing there and as the vendor. And of course, Blue Investments Limited, which is the reference, I suppose, to Blue Waters there. And as well, of course, being represented by Secretary Mr. Esper and the PIF Corporate Services as the, which is also in there somewhere. But the point is, building was sold, the entire property, was sold for $13.6 million.
Yes.
Now that's very important because as well, just last night, the Prime Minister's attaché, Norbert Williams, was saying that the building was sold for $30 million. But this is he's clearly saying that this was sold for 13.
He probably meant we lost 30 million.
Well, right. So we actually lost in the sale because we effectively paid 45 or 45, 46, and we end up now selling the building for 13.
So he probably meant that we lost 30 million, not that we sold it for 30 million. Because, I mean, the document is there, it's a public document. You can see that it was sold for $5 million US, which is 13.6 million EC. And since it was purchased in 2006, 2007, we have probably put in about $45 million in that property. So in effect, we have lost.
So effectively, just by the sale of the property, the government has already lost
$30
million on this deal.
On that.
This brilliant deal.
Transactional loss. Because if you then say what is the market value, it might be slightly different. In terms of land and buildings, whatnot. But in transactional value, we would have lost $30 million.
Right. So that takes us up to that point. Now, in addition to that, we heard from the Prime Minister speaking about this whole arrangement where the government has 75,000 square feet.
Now, it's actually 78,400.
78,400. Now, just for the benefit of those, again, who are at home, if we could just go to screen, if we go to the north of St. Lucia and we can zoom in and we can see the property in question, right? This is Bois de Waj, and this is the property right here, right? And again, we can just very quickly work out that the footprint of that building is almost 90,000 square feet, as you can see here, right?
The front building.
Right, the footprint of the entire, what's on the ground, right? And then you got 3 levels up. So 90 by 3, roughly 270,000, which is what you were saying, 280,000.
280,000.
Right. So what is actually being leased by the government is not the full building, but it's just the front part,
second and third floor,
and the second and third floor. So roughly, again, this shows just about 35,000. So it comes up to about 70,000. You said it's exactly 78,400. So out of that, now the Prime Minister mentioned something about call centers. Is it that the call centers are getting another section within that building? Because clearly there's a lot of other space which has not really been clarified as to what is going to be done on the second and third floors at the back or, wherever else. But so the call centers part he's referring to, you think, is within the government share?
Well, I mean, that's worried because he seemed to suggest that we are going to be bringing in a call center. He's already in negotiation with them. He cannot be in negotiation with a call center about the rest of the building owned by somebody else. So one has to assume if he's in negotiation with a call center to come in and occupy the space, then it has to do the space that he owns. Certainly can't be some other space. But you remember with Ojo Labs, the government provided a refurbished factory shell. The government paid for utilities, including electricity, water, internet, and the government paid the salaries of the staff there for almost 18 months. So he's already established a business model where he will pay the rent or the cost of housing the business, as well as paying the recurrent expenditure for a period of time. So it's not inconceivable that when he says he will be the owner of the second and third floor, which is not right. He's actually leasing the second and third floor. It's not his, and I want us to deal with this. Because the most frightening part of this lease agreement is a clause that deals with this. So we would want to believe that, he is already finding space for the call centers and the a la Ojo Labs model. And therefore, when we will be renting or leasing this property for 15 years at $313,000 a month, which is about 3.7 million a year for 15 years, it is for those purposes.
But let's just take a look at this lease agreement, though,
Yes.
which is also available.
Yeah.
And again, just for the benefit of those at home, this is a lease agreement between Orange Grove Plaza Limited and the government of St. Lucia now.
Yeah.
So government of St. Lucia is now engaging the same individuals who they sold the land to. And again, all that, it says it very clearly, all that 78,406 square feet comprising the first and second floors, remember there's ground, first and second, right, of the building known as Amazona Building and situated at at Bois d'Ouage in the registration quarter of Grosley and registered in the land registry as block and parcel 1253B number 888. So that's the same thing, the same building, we just have established that. Right, and so of course, as you can see, it has been signed by the Registrar of Lands, and this was dated the 7th of April, 2021.
Yeah.
So as of the 7th of April, we have entered into a lease agreement with this developer for those areas. And as you said, if we could just maybe skip the text a little bit, I think at the bottom, it actually shows the leased area.
Yeah.
Right? So as you can see here in black, this is the leased area in black. Now the building extends, there are 3 sections of the building. There's a whole section at the back, which is not included in the lease, and there's a section on where you see building number 3, and that's to the right of your screen, right? Which is where the Prime Minister says the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court is going to be housed, which is that's a completely separate lease. That's what he says.
Yes.
Of course, the court may decide
it's not going there.
It's not going there at all.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about now the lease itself, because you're saying we effectively are tying ourselves to about 15 or 16 and a half years.
Yeah. Well, 15 years, 16 and a half years, but a year and a half, which is 18 months, is the period of refurbishment.
And construction. So there's a grace period of a year, of 18 months.
18 months,
prior to, so the assumption of...
The commencement date is March, and the completion date is 18 months later, which would be up to August next year. And then you have the rental commencement date starting 1 month after the completion date.
Okay.
So the rental commencement date actually starts the 1st of September, I think it is, or October next year. So what they have done is we have already commenced the lease from March, but they're going to give us a moratorium on rental until next year. So
because the building has to be refurbished.
Yes. So we've already started the lease. I mean, I couldn't understand why it's done this way, but there must be some reason why they've done it this way.
Now, in terms of payment, you're not just paying for the floor space, which is, I think, indicated.
But just before you go on that, I would want you to try to understand for me, explain to me, why would we not have commenced the lease of the 2 floors from the completion rental commencement day, which is next year?
Right.
Why did it have to be done immediately? So in effect, government has started leasing 2 floors that have not been refurbished, but there's a moratorium on paying the rent. Why did they find it necessary to have the lease commence now?
Well, I guess it's because they had to tie in, the developer has to tie in his ability to gain back the monies. I think that's the idea.
But we're not paying the rent.
We're not paying the rent, but then you still,
But we are tied in into the agreement.
But you're tied in for a full period of time. Kind of like, I suppose, a build, own, lease transfer type arrangement, sort of. But we speak about that. But what are we saying right now? You're paying your $4 per square foot.
Yeah.
Right. So you're paying $4 per square foot. I just want to get a calculator out here.
Yeah, that's 313,000.
We said that the total
at 78,400.
It was all that 78,406.
Yeah, by $4 a square foot.
By $4 a square foot. That's per month, right? So that's $313,624 per month. But then there's also another 10% charge,
no,
a
before
maintenance
that,
fee?
there are a number of services that will be provided. Maintaining the common areas, maintaining the grounds, and all those things. You have to pay your portion of that. So since you have 78,406 square feet, your portion of that cost would be 78,406 over 280,000 square feet. So that's the portion. That'll be your portion of that common services cost.
Right.
And then there is maintenance costs.
Right.
And you have to pay the cost for utilities, water, all those things.
Well, I'm not even going there yet, but just the...
No, that's part of it. And then you
maintenance.
pay the maintenance costs, and then you pay 10% management fee. Now that 10% management fee is 10% of the maintenance cost. So if the maintenance cost for the building is $500,000 for the year, you pay your portion of that, plus you pay 10% of the $500,000.
Okay.
Which is the management fee.
Now, there's no way that we know what the maintenance cost is going to be.
No, you have no idea.
So we just have to kind of estimate.
You just have to estimate. So you have the common services costs, you have the maintenance costs, and the utilities costs, and then 10% of the maintenance cost as a management fee that you have to pay. Now you have to pay for all the staff that's involved in the maintenance of the building, the engineers, the groundsmen, all those things. You too have to make your contribution towards that cost. So your rental of $313,000 per month, it's a lot more than that.
Right, so it's $313,000 times a factor.
Yes,
which is this
which is about 1/4. We'll be paying about 1/4 of the total cost.
Okay.
Because 78,400 over 280,000 is about 23%, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So basically, right. So let's just stick with this. I'm just going to use a factor of 10%, right? Increasing in that. So that's roughly about 345,000 per month. So it's times 12 times 15. So you're speaking about $62 million over the next 15 years that we've committed ourselves to repaying. Could be more, depending on whether the and of course that is no VAT. So that's just the government.
And then you have to add VAT.
I'm not including VAT because there'll be people who say, well, that's going back to government. But I'm just talking about that aspect. But that's a substantial amount of money to be tying in at this point in time.
It is. And I mean, you've been very generous, huh?
Very, I know. Very generous.
It's a lot more than that. Because you've, in effect, added about 40,000 more a month?
Right, yeah.
Now, which is 10%. It will be more than that. Your utilities alone will be $40,000 more a month.
Right.
Electricity, air condition, water, and those things.
Right.
Alone will be more than that.
Dr. Haley, I just want to show you a graph, and this is of Government of St. Lucia rental payments per annum between 2008, 2009, and 2000 up until the last year gone, up until March 31st, 2021. And as you can see, over the past 5 years, we've seen an incredible rise in that figure. I mean, I've color-coded it just for the benefit of those in yellow, that period within the Alan Chastney administration. And we're now looking at over $70 million on annual payments of government for rent at this point in time. That's a very, very concerning rate of increase. And even before that 2020, 2021, it was increasing. It was clearly way out of control.
70 million a year. And you're going to add another 4 million just from this. Another 4 million. And again, that's why it raises the question of why did the government believe this is prudent at this point? Why should we do this? Why do we have to do it? And I wanted to make a point to you that according to, look at clause 2.1, which you can bring up, they have agreed to offer moratorium on rent until the rental commencement date, which is the beginning of September, 1st of September, I think, next year. But the term of the agreement, which is the term of rental of the lease for 15 years, cannot expire until the landlords, the persons who we sold the building to, have paid off all the outstanding debts to financial institutions. So look at 2.1.
2.1, this is at the request of the tenant.
Yeah.
The landlord hereby leases and demises unto the tenant all the lease premises from the commencement date, with a moratorium on rent from the commencement date until the rent commencement date for the term provided that the term shall not expire until all monies due and owing by the landlord to Republic Bank EC Limited or such other financier has been fully repaid. So basically, they don't release that until they've paid their loans.
Their loans. Now, I mean, somebody must tell us under what conditions can we continue to accept responsibility in case they are not servicing their loans? If for whatever reason they do not rent the rest of the building and there's a lot of empty space, because they have a business model.
Right.
They purchase it for X amount, refurbish for X amount, monthly expenditure of X amount, and monthly repayment to the bank based on revenue earned would be X amount.
Yeah. So in other words, government is giving them a sort of a bly, let's call it that, of about 25 to 30% of the floor space.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
But they still have to now go out, of course, and fill out the other 70% of the floor space.
Yes.
And if they're not very successful doing that,
they cannot service their loan.
They may not be able to service their loan, or perhaps the cost of the improvements to the building may be more than what they originally expected, and the loan amount might go up, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So you might actually be in this arrangement for more than even the 15 years.
Precisely. It means we cannot end the lease and we cannot become the true owners of the floors that the Prime Minister spoke about until the company that bought the building and is refurbishing the building has paid off all their monies to financial institutions.
Now, I know it's late and the clip was long, but I thought it was important, and I'll still open the lines to try to take 2 or 3 calls. 5727588, and for those of you calling via WhatsApp, 4847588. But to those who talk about Shasney as this mover and shaker and business guru, I think Shasney is an elitist who believes in the exploitation of the average St. Lucians for corporate social welfare for the FFF. Shasney, as Minister for Tourism, championed the purchase of this building for $30 million 14 years ago. The payments of interest of $250,000 a month brought it up to over $50 million, $52 million we have paid for that building. He then sells it to one of his family members and extended family members married to his in-laws for $13 million, even though we had paid up to $52 million for it. And now we are going to rent 2 floors for the next 16 years plus, and pay a total of about $60 million on top of the $52 million we lost, and selling the building for $13 million. And we have an open-ended commitment for more corporate social welfare as a business partner. No, we're not a business partner. St. Lucia suffers, again, the average man. Every time you pass up and down the highway, you have been paying $250,000 for that building. How is it that Shasney can F up? And yet, when they try to do something which is even a worse screw-up, they actually want to pat themselves on the back for it. I'm saying it again. 14 years ago, you bought a building for $30 million. The government and people bought it on your BS. You had $250,000 worth of interest payments. It turned into $52 million that we paid for that derelict building. You sell it for $13 million. And then you are giving the people a bolt arrangement to help them to finance whatever they're doing. For the next 15 to 16 years, you are going to be paying up to $60 million to rent it, to hope to own the same building that you had in the first place, all so that you can take care of the FFF. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, sir.
Question. When was that building actually purchased?
It was purchased in 2007. It was, you see, Daher was a supporter of the UWP. So when they came in, they gave him to do the Grosley Highway right in front of the gas station and the strip mall, which he had built, right? They gave him to do the highway along there, which was perfectly fine. And they gave a couple $1 million for that. But then the further accommodation was 2007 when the government formed a company, Amazona Holdings, right, which benefited obviously, what's his name, Osbert Dove's wife, Osbert Dove, and Shasney, the main people pushing that whole thing to purchase the building for about $30 million.
Right, okay. Here's where I'm going with this. When this building was purchased in 2007, was Stephenson King already the acting prime minister? Was he already the prime minister?
He was not prime minister. Well, no.
Or he was already acting. Was he already acting?
No, I don't. It's 2007, but you see, again, the time span, because Sir John fell ill, and that was between March to September of 2007. I cannot say with certainty.
Because the thing is, I know he died, I think, sometime in, I think, September or thereabouts in 2007.
Yes, September. So I know that by the time this deal was closed, Stephenson King was prime minister. That much I can tell you.
Because the thing is, I mean, look, if this thing was purchased while Sir John was still alive and healthy, that is shocking that somebody like Sir John would allow Shasney to sell that kind of stuff to him.
Well, caller, all I can tell you is Stephenson King is the same person who allowed Shasney to increase the tourism budget, right? The tourism budget from $25 to $50 million, right? After 2008, the 2009, 2010 budget. So I don't know that I would ever put that. Yeah?
And that's where I'm going with this. And here is yet another reason why Stephenson King. I mean, look, that guy has done so much stuff. He has allowed so much. I mean, as prime minister, this man allowed so much criminal stuff to happen under his watch. Criminal stuff which is still going on today as a result of what he allowed in 2007 onwards. You know, and today
he is
remaining silent while all this other stuff is going on, saying absolutely nothing. But he's going to come to people again and say, re-elect me. Look, Christopher, this thing, just like Ojo, just like the Pajor letter, just like DSH, all of that stuff, in my opinion, is criminal. That's criminal stuff going on. I mean, that is not just normal stuff, incompetence and all that kind of stuff. That's criminal stuff going on. Because look, I cannot believe that any leader, I mean, I don't care how silly you are, how incompetent you are, I don't understand how any leader could get into stuff like that, arrangements like that, without benefiting personally from those arrangements. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, caller. But you see, I keep coming back to oh, we have a call on hold. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, sir.
But I'm just wondering, I mean, we have some brilliant minds here, some really brilliant minds in this country. And for somebody to allow Mr. Norbert Williams to come on the television station to spew that kind of nonsense is embarrassing for one to go around and say, I am from St. Lucia, and Derek Walcott and Safford Lewis from St. Lucia, and you have Norbert Williams on television talking that kind of nonsense and expecting people to actually believe him, eh?
Caller, he only wants enough people to believe him, to vote, to keep them in office so that he can keep his job. That's what it is about. He's not trying to fool everybody, just the ones who are willing to be fooled.
No, that is just so crazy, Jed. Because, and then people call and saying you can't pay your rent and this and that. And what does that prove? What does that prove? What does that prove now with what we're talking about now? What does that prove?
And yet he will turn around and talk about Malawi syndrome.
Serious? I don't even, honestly, these days, Chris, I don't know what to call and contribute because it is so ludicrous. Where we have a man playing with himself for a young girl on video and calling and whatnot, and you're quick to ask him to resign. Quick to ask him to resign. But you have a minister taking his role to write letters for financial institutions and whatnot, and nothing is being done about that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Caller, when I get back to that tomorrow, you're going to see just how far the rabbit hole goes. We just start with that one. Just start with that one.
This man's supposed to be arrested already or fired already or something has to be happening, but apparently, well, like we all know, it's two St. Lucians, because if it was you, and imagine if you saying this letter is fake, this is some serious allegations there. Why nobody not taking you to task? Why nobody not taking...
Why no investigations? Why are there no investigations? You made the point earlier.
Exactly. Why? The container of drugs that was on the compound, it gone quiet. Nothing. Nothing.
And you'd be surprised how many of the same players are behind the scenes in all of these things.
All of these things that happen in the country, and one after the other, they are coming up. And then slowly but surely, they all just get covered up, and then nothing. And then those idiots coming on people's television and spewing stupidness. He repeated it over and over and over and over. 30 million, like, come on, man. They pay you to go and lie.
He didn't just repeat it. He was reading it as well. So that means it was in print, whether somebody gave it to him to read or he himself was reading it. And totally inaccurate. 30 when it was 13 that it was sold for.
Chris, honestly, I don't even know what to say anymore. I cannot even make a...
The most important thing that you can do is try to speak to people and give them objective evidence, because those who fail to care will be trampled on together with the rest of us who do.
You've seen the hacks from the United Workers' Party coming out and saying stupidness and doing stupidness on videos. These people, I guarantee you, a lot of these people are coming out and doing that stupidness. They have loans to pay, have rent to pay, have utilities to pay. They are backed up in different things. They haven't shopped as yet to put on food at the home. And they're just supporting nonsense. Where is the proof and the evidence that these people did anything constructive in the country? Where? Apart from lies, corruptions, theft. Man, come on. Anyway, my brother, let's give somebody a chance.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah.
Okay, if we have no more calls coming in, I think I'll wrap up, because obviously this is a pretty long time to have been on air. But like I said, I thought it was important. And I'll wait to see if indeed more of the FFF becomes the norm. As I understand, CPJ is supposed to be going into that Dahe building, which of course is more of the friends, more of the family, and more of the foreigners, because CPJ is owned by Shastney's in-laws and of course Butch Stewart's family as well. Now, folks, the sad reality is this is just one other set of crap. But I want you to think about this in the bigger picture of things, that we have been paying for this kind of style of governance that Shastney pushed as Minister for Tourism 14 years ago. Shastney's lies and bullshit and facilitation of political affiliates way back then, 14 years ago, we were still paying for every day you pass by the mall. Every month we are still paying, even in COVID, we are still paying $250,000 plus in the interest alone. $52+ million for a building that we bought for $30 million. Shastney and them boasting that they sold it for $30 million when they actually sold it for $13 million, and are now going to rent 2 floors to help them to pay in a bolt agreement over the next 16 years. Another $60 million. Wow. St. Lucia, for the sake of red or yellow, you're going to tell me you're willing to suffer and put your children behind, while the people who already have in St. Lucia, the rich, getting exploitative deals through Shastney. We say Shastney's stupid. He's not stupid. He does not pay the cost of any of the gambles and the bad deals that he makes. He makes good deals for Cabot, for DSH. He makes good deals for Blue Waters. He makes good deals for all of them. And you, the solution people, stay behind. We, the solution people, stay behind. We continue to suffer. So who is more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? Champagne and them getting a little cackadel for doing their radio hackery and, you know, and Dr. Secret and all the rest of them, Norbert and so on. And they are willing to let the country burn. But you are the one who is going to become ashes if you do not do something. In the meantime, they will continue on Sky FM, on GVD, UWP TV. They will do all of that because their main job is to distort reality. That's what conservative radio does in the States. That's what it is set up to do here, the Republican playbook. They will tell you up is down. They will tell you left is right. You don't want to believe me? I'll give you an example in closing. You never thought you would hear it, but boy, that's the kind of shit that's been spewed for people to be vague-laid.
And the third area that I want to recommend to any new candidate or candidates who may be experienced and want to continue in politics, I turn to Hamlet, one of the many great plays written by William Shakespeare. And I quote from Hamlet, and I remember this as a child: "To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, that thou canst not be false to any man." It's important to be true to yourself. You know what I would judge whom I vote for, who I vote for on? The sayings, the words of the former Prime Minister versus the words of the present Prime Minister. Who spoke the truth to me?
Yeah.
Because if I cannot trust you to tell you, for you to speak the truth to me, why should I trust you in any other thing, Champagne?
I agree.
If you have anybody in your life, Champagne, and I don't care who it is, it can be your woman, your child, your mother, your father, anybody in your life who is lying to you, telling you deliberate lies,
yeah,
you cannot trust that person.
No, you cannot.
You cannot. And this is what the former government, especially the leader, has done to the people of St. Lucia. I listen and on the other hand, Alan Shastley has always come out with the truth.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guest, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.